try again. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Where is the... Is it this one? One, two, 1, 2, 3. All right, I think we're good. And I'll just have to just let me turn on my music. Hey. All right. I think we're good. All right. So, welcome aboard to this live stream. I just wanted to, I don't know, remain focused on what I want to work on today for a little while. So, the idea today is to work on Amoxtli Vue. Amoxtli Vue is a project I am very proud of and that I actually explain a little bit more in depth in other videos. But what you see here is a Nuxt project this time. So the original explainer videos have a little bit of a mixture of technologies. But this time I decided to kind of rewrite the whole thing, essentially. And this is what we got. So I wanted to show you real quick before we get going, just as a quick intro. So I took the Learn Nuxt project. You see they have this beautiful interface with a few features here and there, particularly the what's this called? The web containers. Let me turn down the music a little bit. So the web containers are here, and then you can actually run Nuxt projects in the browser. And then they started with this Nuxt concepts and so on and so forth. So you have the different chapters, the different, all these things I took and I changed a little bit or a whole lot and created added support not just for Nuxt itself but for Vue, right? So let's go back to the book. Here Amoxtli is a little bit different, although it shares a lot of the ideas with Nuxt, learnnuxt.com. And yeah, so you can see here we can toggle the areas. In this case, I provided this file, which is actually the default for now. But I added stuff like being able to keep snapshots. Oh yeah, I need to configure stuff around, but that's not the important part right now. So I just need to focus on docs for now. And let's see, very quickly, let's show you. Yeah, I think the playground is fine. So you can see we also have the web container part going, right? And I added a few things like these expressive code like annotations. These are written from scratch essentially. These portions are also a little bit more what would you call this, customizable, I guess, where it's not just a copy to clipboard button, but there's also a few other things you can do, like increasing and decreasing the font size. And in the annotations, I didn't really want this to like fight for your attention, I guess. So I added like a dimmer color for the annotation, and unless you hover over it, then you can see the highlighted code and stuff like that. So I also, changed the theme for the different pieces, and I tried to make it consistent. So the font and the theme should match, and little details here and there, right? But enough of that, I guess. I just wanted to show you real quick what the project is and what I am working on. As you can tell, I've already gone through a lot of content, and I'm continuously adding more stuff. I wanted to finish with the basics, because I eventually want to also add specific libraries and techniques and things like that that you can do with your Vue code. Maybe also add more features. Like for example, we don't really have a way for keeping track of the progress, and also we don't have like proper challenges. Like in here you can see we have one where you need to fix the bug in the app as it is broken right now, but there's no real check that you actually fixed it and things like that. There's no feedback telling you actually did fix the bug or you completed the challenge for that matter. So yeah, still a lot of things I want to work on, but right now, excuse me. I was saying right now I am working on the content for this particular portion, which is the styling. So we already discussed how you could bind attributes and a little bit on reactivity. We might, yeah, I was gonna say we might add computed properties here, but no, that's not the idea right now. So yeah, then I noticed, I realized that I could probably use the explanation for Nuxt, for example, at this point. So I went back and added the chapter or the lesson, and this is how I've been kind of working with and working on, right? Yeah, so part of the book also has these, which you will see in a moment, which are the live examples, I guess, the live coding pieces, which is a little bit different from what you can see on the actual playground. So this would be like an entire Vue setup that you could have in your computer, right? My goal was to reduce the friction between having the entire playground, or sorry, the entire setup on your computer, on your desktop, and starting doing things with Vue, which is fairly easy, but still, you could do like everything in here and should be quicker, faster, easier to get going, right? So that was the goal, just as the learn.nuxt.com project. So then we have this, where if you were in just the lesson, you could see there's some text explaining stuff, and then you could right away play with the code here, right? So if I change that, you can see that that's actually being compiled and executed, evaluated and stuff. So this is basically that, what's going on. You can reload that, and you can clear the terminal sometimes. Maybe not in this particular case. Maybe that's a bug that we need to finish or fix. But yeah, that's the idea. You have some live pieces, live portions of that, and I also added these, which are based on Magic Move. I think that's what's it called. And the idea here is we either show, like in this case, for example, 2 ways of writing next tick or using it. You could use it like this with a callback, or as a promise. So yeah, so in this way, my goal is to help people understand that there's 2 ways of doing things. So, and if you animate it, I think that makes it clearer. I think that's the purpose for the library. So I grabbed the library and wrapped it in this component here. There are cases where we are actually showing steps for doing things, so that will be also what this component is used for. So this is another component that I added. And yeah, like I said, expressive code, like highlighting stuff. Next tick is highlighted there and here. This also collapses parts of the code that I don't really think that the reader needs to know about at that point. So there you go. We also have a way for collapsing and expanding every single portion that I collapsed. Things like that. That's you will see as we go. So anyway, I was saying that I go back and forth with the content and things. And right now I am going with I'm working on the dynamic classes part, where my goal is to share how you can use the dynamic binding for classes in different ways. So we have the explicit class names, where if you check and uncheck the box, you will get different styles, right? But it's not just the style, but the actual class that is changing, and we see it on the output here. This output will have the checked and unchecked class, which are here, and well, that's the idea. Yeah, my goal is also to eventually like record lessons on video and have videos related to every lesson, that I could probably then just provide as a way for the content to be consumed in each case. And that way, people who are more leaning toward learning through videos can do that instead of having to go through the text. But the code is also important for me to be displayed and explained and things like that, so I still keep this here. And yeah, so now we have the explanation for toggling classes, and this is also one other component I added here. This tooltip, where we can follow the mouse or the cursor and show a little bit more of content here. So the idea is to provide more context without having to abandon the page, the main Amoxtli Vue page, right? So what I do here is I take maybe a quote from an external source and just bring it in. In this case, we're explaining the difference between truthy and falsy and stuff, while still providing a way for the user to go and check out the actual source, in this case the documentation for MDN. So yeah, that's one other component I wanted to kind of showcase in this video or this live stream or whatever. And yeah, what else? So at this point we are showing the truthy and falsy and saying, okay, so if this value evaluates to truthy, then it will show, but in this case will not, because empty string is a falsy value, and so on and so forth. So that's what I keep here. And you can see we are only showing the template here. This is part of the component where you will see in a minute how that is written, but basically hiding entire tags, or more than that, it's just hiding ranges of lines, so we can only allow the interaction with this part of the code, and it's easier to grasp, in my opinion, right? Because we're only showing what's important, I guess. And then we have, you know, those callouts, the tips, the info, the warnings, and all those are also here. And what I wanted to do here was complete this part, I think. So now we mix objects in arrays, and the official docs have a little bit of a different way of approaching this part, but I think the real advantage of doing objects in arrays in Vue excuse me, would come, the advantage would come when you have a like a dynamic naming portion here, right? So we have an array, and then this is it, the whole thing, and then we have like this toggling of the class, but also a dynamic class being applied. So how do you do that? Well, I try to explain that here, and as you can tell, there's a lot of code. I might just keep the important pieces shown and then hide the rest of it. And the way we do that is, okay, so we have the, like I mentioned, this is a Nuxt content project. So we have the Markdown that will also enable us to write Vue code, which is pretty cool. And then this became a component, right? So this, if I did objects in, yeah, we're here. If I removed these two kind of, what can we call them? Maybe parameters or modifiers or something. Yeah, parameters or attributes. Then this becomes just code fence, right? The expressive code like component that I created. So that's like this is the whole code, right? But then when I do live, then we get the whole interaction. So in this case, the should first class be applied. Sorry, no, the custom style enabled ref is true, and then as none of the values are picked yet, as we say here, that's true, but this isn't, so the particular class name is not applied unless we pick one. Error, success, and so on and so forth. So yeah, now it's live. We also don't want to hide the console, so if I do this, then we get the console, and when we pick one, I have code that is here that is printing out the element, right? So, but like I said, we probably don't really need like all of that to be displayed. To kind of prevent the user from, or the reader to be overwhelmed. But I'm not sure what parts I would hide. Let's say I just wanted to hide the entire the entire script tag, right? And the only way we have for doing that is right now, let's show, I mean, I could do either show line numbers here, and you can see it immediately changes here on the right. We can see the line numbers, or I could do it through VS Code itself. Line here, toggle relative line numbers. This is an extension that I added, and then you can see, oh, I did have it enabled. So you can see now that this is line 1 and so on till I get to 72. So let's say we want to hide line 1 until line 16, and then we have it. Maybe 17 because that's the new line, like the space here. Okay. And I think it can still be understood if we only had the template. Given that we already went through the whole binding to interactivity and reactivity and stuff. So I think this could still be understood properly. But the fact that we don't have the entire like blob of code there would help the user. So yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah, I guess this would be good enough for now. All right, I'm just checking a couple things here on the live stream thingy. Yeah, I think everything looks good. All right. And if you're interested, just out of curiosity, if you wanted to know, these colors, tomato, gold, Dutcher blue, and lime green, are actual HTML color names. I like to add these to my my CSS when I have the time or the opportunity, I guess. So yeah, you can see these names you can use, and then they will reflect a different kind of hue for different colors, right? So yeah, I picked them from here essentially, and yeah, I think this is a great way for me also to kind of practice that. And the reason I picked those particular ones is you can go now into light mode. You'll be flashbanged again, sorry. And if we change them, they should be also fairly visible still. I am not too heavy on the accessibility part right now, so that's something I could probably work on a little bit more. Yeah, so it's not that awesome yet, but I will be looking into that as well. Okay, but I actually prefer dark mode, so there's that. And you probably could also tell that this is taken care of as well for the components. At least we have the two modes. Maybe they are not as accessible as they should be, but I'm gonna give my best there. We have a little bit of a bug here. You can see the Z index for this button is not quite right, so that's something to fix also. All right, and then probably what I want to do next is, so yeah, I'll just paste it again and then remove the live portion. Obviously we don't want the console there, because at this point I want to say yeah, at this point, probably people who read this will already be familiar with, you get the live portion and then you get the annotated code or something like that, right? So what we can do here is annotate the code. And one of the reasons I went with this expressive code like component, I really have to name it something. But it's basically an extension of the pre what's it called? The pros pre, right? I think you create these and then that will override whatever Nuxt content is doing, something like that. But you can see I added plain text capabilities and then the ability to also show and hide the line numbers to that component. So yeah, you can see a little bit of that here. Anyway, so that component, the pros pre, what I wanted to do here was maybe, I'm thinking, well, the first thing is line 44, right? So let's do note the dynamic. The class name will be applied based on both the and then we say this is it a comma? No, it's a colon. And then we need line 44 for that. And you can tell also that the VS Code extension that toggles, it's actually setting in VS Code that you toggle on and off. So yeah, 44, so that matches properly. That's what I wanted to see. Okay. And it's not annotated. Of course it's not annotated because I am showing you how it works. I think we need quotes instead. But also, there you go. Yeah. So a little bit muted, and when you hover over it, then you can see it. Maybe we can do it per annotation, but that's not a concern for me right now. But yeah, that's the idea. So in this case, instead of providing the code with a ton of comments, we add these. And say we actually wanted to show that in the playground now. So when we go to the playground, I think I have it on the, yeah, just gotta remove the backticks. When we do it on the playground, then you see like essentially cleaner version of the code, I guess. Right? So you have no annotations, no comments, no nothing, and then you can do that yourself. For example, here I want to add a comment here. Is that right? Can we add comments in this way? There's a little bit of an issue, I think, here. You should definitely be able to add comments in this way. But let's say, oh, we didn't have the way to save, right? Or do we? Okay, that's great. So something I also added, like I mentioned before, this is properly configured. I will show you that later on, maybe. That the there's a little bit of a version control here, right? So if I and expanded the comments or something, then if I save, then we see another snapshot here, what I call them, and a little bit of a div here. If I click on the one file, then you see I added this portion, which wasn't there before. So yeah, then if I want to restore that version, an auto saved snapshot will be added, and then I will be going back to here. So very basic, but I think I want to say it's going to be powerful and helpful. So there's that. Okay. Yeah, and this still works, like you can see. You can turn on the console, which is the output, and let's put it over here, maybe. So yeah, warning. Now we get it there. Success, and everything works just like before. But this is on the playground. I will eventually put back the download project, just like learn.nuxt.com had, and then you would be able to just download this and run it on your local computer. But this would be like the main purpose of having, going back to the beginning, the purpose of having the annotations in this way instead of filling everything with code and stuff. Sorry, with comments, which I think it works. All right. So let's say annotate line 7, and then say something like this. And then you can see I also added some magic to have library loading for this. It was a little bit time consuming, but we ended up being able to do that. Okay. Let's see, what else would I want to point out? And as you can tell, for now, I am not doing any V model stuff here. And that's on purpose because we don't really have anything that relates to that just yet, right? So we will be talking about forms and stuff in the next kind of chapter after styling. And that's my idea there. So my idea is to go like a little bit slow, step by step, and then letting stuff sink in, in the brains of the people who read, because now that you understand this part well, you need to somehow grab a hold of the value, but then do something whenever the input changes. How can you do that even more tersely, succinctly, more easy for it to be read and also to be implemented? So I think that would make sense. Anyway, we also already talked about these like before, and the importance of having a key, things like that. So at this point, I am confident that the people who are reading this are already familiar with all these things. And if not, they can go back and check the other chapters, which I'm not going to go into right now. So yes, I think the only one thing I am missing in this chapter, and why it has taken me a little bit of a long time to actually finish it, is the fact that we are explaining so many things at this point. We are going through different examples that, even though they kind of look similar, in this case applying either class and then toggling classes, which are a little bit different from these multiple ones, even though, like I said, take the previous example and work on it. I am not sure what to actually provide as the code here, you know. What I think for this chapter in particular is maybe like a sort of a kitchen sink example where we apply all of the different ways of changing the classes, or binding the classes, and then do that as like the one gigantic example here, and let the user figure it out for themselves, kind of thing. So yeah, maybe grabbing the whole, because when I did the list part here, I think you will see we went from just rendering like this. So how can I show this? Maybe like this. So no terminal for now. And then say we are rendering first with B4, just plain and simple. But if you do that, then you get just the list like it is. And then what if you start extracting the data? Then you will get the other way of doing the list, right? And then finally, sorry, that was the second example. And then what if you wanted to extract the data? That will be this particular portion, right? So maybe something like this would work. And let me see how I wrote that. So yeah, I guess we go like it's a progression of ideas. And then going through that will eventually, so in that case, I took the entire example. I probably should have done that in the first place. It's because it had so much time like went in between those two different ideas for the lesson. You can see here that there's no live coding or live environment. And this is because I didn't have that component yet. So the writing style is a little bit different because of that. Like I said, I have the entire example and then I break it down here, which is probably something I could do, like even for this example as well, right? So I could add the entire file and then just break it down in live portions. If you were looking into this as the docs only mode, you would still see the interactive portion of it, which kind of would make sense. And even though that will kind of create this as a longer article, I guess, longer lesson, it would still give you the the idea. And so I guess I need to do like both things. I need to add more live examples to this, but then probably just create a more complete example for the entire file and then break it down on the coding portion. Maybe that's what I need to do. All right, let's see if we can do that with this one. For the text or the files that appear here, as you can tell that right now it is like the default kind of thing. And that is because we have, I inherited this way of doing things, which is you have a .template folder, and inside that you have files and solutions folder. So if you provide this, then you will get the button here, show solution. And yeah, so this is the default file, I guess, that was created with a CLI tool that I came up with, but I can show you that later on. So this is a little bit of the tiring part because I need to think a lot about what I want to do, and one of the reasons why I wanted to share this live, because that will keep me doing the thing instead of, you know, going in on side quests or looking at social media and stuff. Anyway, so once we save this file, and you can see it live reloads here, and it's just the entire live example that we had, but on the playground itself. So this is actual Vue going on and stuff, and it should work the same, right? Because it's Vue. But yeah, let's say I just wanted to mash, or what do you call that, to mix all of the code. See what happens. Handle click. Yeah, there's 2 handle clicks now. Yeah, this is should apply. Yeah. Okay, this is not going to be super exciting, but we have to do it. So let's move this here. And this will be checkbox. Yeah, there's also the fact that these examples are too, what do you call that, contrived? And I really didn't come up with something more interesting, which is not great. But anyway, let's see what the other example looks like. So the difference in between those is only wait. Oh, I did bring in Okay, I think I'm gonna mute myself and go into thinking mode instead of trying to explain everything I'm doing. You can feel free to leave a comment or something if you see something, or if you have a question or anything like that. I'll be around. Hey, I was just saying, I didn't really need to explain everything I was doing at that moment, but I can show you now. I can explain a little bit. So the idea was to bring in everything in here on the original example. Let's say here, there's one example here. You can see view live stuff, and then we have another one, and we have a third one here. You see, there's 4 examples, 5, and then I'm trying to bring them into just one big one, where you can see the code is now all mixed in one single file kind of thing, right? So there's a reason for this. I don't want to have separate files for the different examples right now. I think that will come later on with more complex concepts. So that's what's going on right now. For the most part, I am not totally convinced about this, to be honest, but I think I will just go with it for now. Okay. Yeah, I think for now I can leave it here, and as you can tell, just wanted to share how this kind of works, where the project is right now, because I don't think I have posted anything related to this, but it is something I really want to finish. I really want to share and have it available sooner rather than later, and I will do my best to keep going and finish it quickly, right? So there's a lot of things that you can see right now that have been added, like I mentioned at the beginning, and there's a bunch of things that I also want to add. One quick thing I wanted to mention is let's say I am here looking into the actual documentation. So I go here, this is something I didn't show, but I do go here to the official Vue.js docs, and then try to bring in all the concepts that are explained here, but in a different way, maybe a little bit more maybe a little bit more involved, but a little bit also the explanation should be a little bit more expanded, and the examples should kind of try to drive the point home, as I would say. So yeah, you can rest assured that I am definitely looking at the documentation and going through that before giving you the examples and the explanations and things like that. So yeah, there's that. So thanks a lot for being with me for a little while and taking a look at how this all works. There's a bunch of other things that I could show you how it works and what it does, like the little package that I created for it, the create content CLI kind of thingy that I created for adding more chapters. I might show you that later on when I start working on, probably, yeah, the computed properties might be the next thing to explain. I will decide either to put it into the reactivity stuff or maybe later on for the forms. But I think I will leave it there for now. Thanks a lot for watching. And let me find the other code or the other application. Appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you later on, I guess.